Assalamualaikum, dear executives. Hope you are doing great today. Today we'll be starting this chapter. This is chapter 11 on management, human resource management, and we will be talking about the practice of learning and development. Okay, so today's learning agenda is to identify the learning needs in an organization. To understand the man approaches to learning needs analysis, describe the function of gap analysis, explain how management analyzes the business and workforce plans, and describing the man approaches to learning and development. Describe the effective training practices, describe how to plan and deliver events, and understand the meaning of blended learning and understanding who is responsible for implementing the of learning. And at the last, there is a homework as well. Okay, so basically you can just compare it with other universities, and that will give you a good idea like what are the trainings that they are providing and what we don't our university is lacking. So that can also give you a good idea. So survey can sometimes highlight some really deficient areas for trainings, but they cannot be we should not be solely dependent on them. Okay, so performance and development reviews. So performance management is a prime source of information that individual learning and development needs. So basically our training and learning is it should be directly linked with the performance. So our objective is to increase the performance level of the employees. So we can also observe this through their performance. If the performance is not there, so we can see like what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required for the job, and behavior competencies that are required to perform this job's effectively, and taking into account any new demands that will be made on the role holder. So we need to conduct a joint assessment for the development needs and what sort of development program is required. An overall analysis of performance and development review reports can reveal any common learning needs that can be satisfied. So that can be done individually and that can be done jointly to understand what are the weakness areas. So the manager can sit with the employee and can investigate like what are that issues that you have from the learning and development perspective, so we can arrange trainings around them so that you can be an effective employee. For example, again, there's a doctor, his publications are low, so when they conduct a meeting, they come to know that he is not good in certain kind of a software, says SPSS or Smart PLS. And then when we conducted this review with other doctors, all of them, they were having this problem, so we can arrange trainings for them. And if they get the training, hopefully they will increase the output of the research that we were talking about. We can also do training need analysis through TNA, which is through role analysis. Role analysis is the basis for preparing profile that provides a framework for analysis and identifying learning needs. It sets out the key resource areas of the role and define the competencies required to perform the role. So the performance management should ensure that the role profiles are updated regularly, and the review on the build can be built on the analysis of the results achieved by references to the key results areas and agreed objectives. We can also conduct a skill analysis. It determines the skills required to achieve an acceptable standard of performance. It's mainly used for technical like craft or manual and office jobs to provide the basis for devising learning and training programs. Okay, what are the main approaches to learning and development? First is competency-based learning and development. So competencies required are used to assess the level of the competencies achieved by individuals and so identify the learning and development needs. Learning events can be based on competency analysis related to an organizational competency frameworks. So it has also used in development centers, which help participants to build their understanding of the competencies they require now or in the future. There's another method that is workplace learning. It is experiential learning. It is learning by doing and reflecting on the experience so that it can understood and applied. It is largely on informed processes, although line managers have an important part to play in facilitating it. The main characteristics of workplace learning, as explained in Strain and Smerdel, are as follows. The workplace as a site for learning, because that is a real world. Imagine students, young graduates, they're coming out from the universities, they are not familiar with the real world. So real world is different than the bookish or what the theories they have studied at universities. So in this case, learning and working spatially separate with some form of structured learning activities occurring off or near the job. The workplace as a learning environment. In this approach, the workplace itself becomes an environment for learning. Like there can be typical tasks that individuals learn, and there are like environment. What time people come at work, what time they leave the work, how much they are like professional, how much they work dedicatedly and wholeheartedly. Okay, so what is the culture? Do people help each other or motivate? Learning and work are inextricable mixed. In this case, learning is the formal. Like sometimes we put at work as a formal learning, and we see that employees are not having this right kind of skills, so we can give them the formal learning. So this is the third. The first one is like the workplace is as a site for learning. So here there's some sort of some form of structural learnings are happening, and so like your mentor or supervisor can help you to learn, and he will can explain these things to you. You can learn from the environment, and then you can devise some formal trainings for the employees. Formal trainings for the employees. Okay, this one concept that is called self-directed learning. It is based on the process of recording achievements and action planning, which means that individuals review what they have learned and what they have achieved, what are their goals, how they are going to achieve these goals, and what the new learning they will need to acquire. It's also based on the principle that people learn and retain more if they find things out for themselves. So self-directed learning is more as a motivation by the individual than the company makes obligation for them to learn. So there can be a difference between coaching, mentoring, and e-learning. Coaching is a personal, like usually one-to-one basis approach to help people develop their skills and knowledge and improve their performance. The need for coaching may arise from formal or informal performance review. Again, giving you the example from academic or university, we saw that there's a young doctor. And that young doctor is struggling to publish. So if his publication is not up to the level, then the management can give a coaching from a senior professor. You can do one-to-one session with him and can apologies, and can guide him to how to publish and how to select the journal and how to refine the topic. Mentoring, it is process of using special selected and trained individuals to provide guidance, pragmatic advice, and continuing support that will help the person or persons allocated to them to learn and develop. It will help people to do better in future. So mentoring is can be linked with the future, and mentor can be not a coach can be like readily available. A mentor is someone that you might need on a time and occasion basis. So mentoring, the process of mentoring means like when you are just trying to develop someone for the future as well. E-learning, it involves the use of computer network and web-based technologies, provide learning materials and guidance to individual employees. It enables learning to take place when it is most needed, like just in time and when it is most convenient. So e-learning is a new concept on which, uh, if anybody is familiar with Coursera, so they will know like what is e-learning. There are like training programs that are online available. Employees can uh, log into the programs at their convenience, or probably this today's lecture is also part of it because we are going to make a recording and students can reflect back at their convenience. So in e-learning programs, most of the mentors, they understand like how much time they are spending on this particular activity. They can design quizzes and assignments. So if you're familiar with Coursera, you would understand what we are talking. These are like massive online open courses. MOOC, we call them MOOC. They are all built around e-learning. Okay, so development. It takes the form of a learning activity that prepare people to exercise wider and increase responsibilities. It takes the form of personal development planning, learning contracts, and planned exercise experiences. So personal development, which is carried out by the individual with guidance, encouragement, and help from the manager, is required. A personal development plan sets out the actions people propose to take to learn and develop themselves. I see the main stages of personal development plan, PDP, on page 296 of the book. Contrary to this, there can be learning contracts. It is formal agreement between the manager and the individual of what learning needs to take place, the objectives of such learning, and what part of individual or manager or learning and development functions will play in ensuring that learning happens. The partners to the contract agreed on how the objectives will be achieved and their respective roles. We call it a part of management by objective, VMBO. Okay, in MBO, management by objective, the supervisor sits with the subordinate and they discuss what are their learning goals, and then they like understand and appreciate, and they provide them basic learning targets for the say for the year, and then the subordinate has to give a performance at the end of the targeted year. So if they probably also link it with the high performance, and they also link it with the financial incentives. So this is like jointly designed certain kind of learning objectives by the supervisor and the supervisor. Like we know many organizations, the employees will ask like we want to increase our qualification to say MBA, and this is the supervisor. The supervisor provides them basic relaxation, like, and if he is working in the shifts, so he might not give them the shifts, so they will help them to enhance their learning. They can be planned experiences. It is the process by deciding on a sequence of experiences that will enable people to obtain knowledge and skills required in their jobs and prepare them to take an increased responsibility. This enables experimental learning to take place to meet a learning specification. So a program is drawn up that sets down that what people are expected to learn in each department or job in which they are given experiences. Like when we were studying at our university, we did an internship. So our internship was in an airline industry. So we were placed like one week in one department, in another week in another department, in another week. Like initially we went to accounts department, then we also went to the finance department, then marketing department. We went to, like, say, ticketing and booking department. We also went to, say, logistic, engineering department. So we went almost throughout the airline industry. They designed it well planned, so we had a comprehensive understanding of the whole industry. So that's how some companies, they perform these planned exercises. I remember that when we were at the university, the country head of the Shell came to our class and he said, like, when he did his Master of Business Administration, he was on the very first day he was asked to go to the petrol pump, and he was asked to fill the petrol himself into the trucks and the vehicles. So he felt like a bit embarrassed, and he thought, no, okay, no problem, I will learn. So he spent over there like 2 weeks. Then he was called directly back to the corporate office, and then he told us, like, I realized why it was important for me to spend like 2 weeks at the petrol pump, because now I understand what are the mindset of the people who are at the gas station or petrol pump. How do they do their job? What are their limitations? What are the issues they are facing, and things like that. So sometimes the management creates such kind of training so that employees can understand 360 degree of the trainings. Okay, training is a set of systematic and planned instructions, activities to promote learning. So it has a complementary role to play in accelerating learning. So training can be justified in the following circumstances. So why we need to adopt training? The knowledge or the skills cannot be acquired satisfactorily in the workplace or self-directed learning. So yes, no matter how much you have a conducive environment of workplace and individuals are willing to learn, but we have to provide them some training. So the need for the training demands there. Learn, but we have to provide them some training. So the need for the training demands there. So different skills are required by a number of people, which have to be developed quickly to meet new demands and cannot be gained by relying on an experience. So experience has its own plus, but there are certain skills that are required. So changing technology, changing workforce requires training. So that creates a demand for training, that there should always be a training for the employees development. And I remember when I was giving a training at an institution where there were like employees who were like 10 to 15 years of work experience. So initially they came in the training, so they were not very concerned about the training. They thought like we know everything. But Alhamdulillah, when the training session was done, so everybody was excited because there's always a room for improvement. And later on, whenever I come across them, they say, "Doctor, when are you going to arrange another training session?" So that also gave me a idea that yes, people, no matter how much experience they have, they always need to polish and learn new skills. The tasks to be carried out are so specialized and complex that people are unlikely to master them on their own intuitive and reasonable speed. So that's why we need to give training that individuals' intuitive or reasonable speed cannot help them to learn the task. And another rationale for training is that when a learning and need common to a number of people has to be met that cannot readily be dealt with within a training event or programs, for example, for induction, essential like IT skills, communication skills. So you have to develop these skills in the employees. So there is a chance then people might have a specific need. So employees, there are some employees that might need IT skills training, they might need some communication training. But now the big question arises, like what is transferring training? So what you have learned, can you convert into practice? It is essentially and continuously applying on the job what the trainee learned during the training. So the main goal of successful trainings are the trainee generalize the skills to the work setting and trainee maintains skills in the work setting. Okay, so the training transfer is measured after participants in a training program. Like we have to see, there's a Solomon method. So he puts like 4 different ways of understanding, like if the training has happened, they might take one group without training, they will just measure their level of understanding. Another group, they might give them the training and then see their learning level through like evaluation. Another group, they might take a survey, check what is their current level of learning, and they might take a evaluation after the training. And then there's a fourth, that they can understand their training and then they see how they do without the training. So systematic training is a specialized design, planned, and implemented to meet defined needs. There are 4 stages for this type of training. First one is identify training needs. Then decide what sort of training is required to satisfy these needs. Then on third, use experienced and trained trainers to implement the trainings. And the fourth one is follow and evaluate trainings to ensure that it is effective. So this is like 4 basic steps that are required. Identify training need analysis, and decide the experts who can provide the training, and then decide what sort of trainings to be done, and the third one is experienced staff, and the fourth one is evaluating of the training. There's one way of training that is called just-in-time training. It is a training that is closely linked to the pressing and relevant needs of the people by its association with the immediate work activities. It is delivered as close as possible to the time when the activity is taking place. So the fresh people will have fresh understanding about this, and they can implement it before the time. So there can be different kind of trainings that can be used as just-in-time training. Similarly, bite-sized training, it involves the provision of opportunities to acquire specific skill, a particular piece of the knowledge in short training sessions focused on one activity, such as using a particular piece of software. So basically, they are not learning the whole software, only the kind of software that is used for that particular job. They just provide them the training. Okay, what are the effective training practices? Effective training uses the systematic approach with an emphasis on skills analysis. The purpose of the training should be clearly defined in terms of behavioral required as a result of the training. The focus of the training should be develop transferable skills. The training should be evaluated on the basis of the extent to which it has achieved its purpose. Okay. Now we have to see the planning and delivering learning events. We will talk about the ADD model, which is of 5 stages. Basically, on the first stage, we have to do analysis phase. In this phase, the learning goals and objectives are established, and the learning environment and learners' existing knowledge and skills are identified. Second stage is design stage. It deals with the subject matter analysis, the program outlines, and the use of learning aids and assessment instrument. Then is the development phase. The detailed program is constructed in this phase. This covers the session plan, the outline contents, and the learning outcomes of each session, methods of delivery, preparation of visual aids, handouts, supporting materials, and exercises. The fourth is implementation phase. Here the program is implemented and training is happened. Evaluation phase is the last phase, which is evaluated by the program directors, and phase which is evaluated by the program directors and at the end of by the participants, and try to learn like how much they have learned about this training. Okay, blended learning is a use of combination learning methods to increase the overall effectiveness of learning processes by providing for different parts of learning mix to complement and support one another. It might be planned for an individual using a mix of planned experience, self-directed learning activity, defined as a personal development plans, and then e-learning facilities, etc. So in a blended learning, you might go with the classroom trainings, you might go like online learning sessions or e-learning programs. You might also provide coaching, personal coaching, and then on-the-job kind of training. So blended learning is a combination of different learning programs. Okay, so a responsibility of the implementation of the learning. Individuals should be expected to take a considerable degree of responsibilities for managing their own learning, but they need the help and support of the line managers and organization, including the L&D function. Actually, there is a concept that is called BIOCA. something like that. It says bend over. Here it comes again. Bend over. Bend over. Here it comes again. What does it mean? You must understand this. Here it comes. Apologies for my bad handwriting again. Actually, what happens in many organizations, they conduct frequent of trainings. So because of too much trainings, the employees just take training as for granted. So they don't consider training as a learning process. So they just try to avoid. So they just want to say like bend over. They just try to avoid themselves. Bend over, the training is coming, so let the training go over my head. So that's why we have to engage the employees to take the responsibility of the learning. So learning is their part of a job. This is real responsibility. If they are not willing to learn, if they attend the sessions, there are many staff, they have been sent into different conferences and different training sessions, and they just attend there. They take good meals in the conferences and they come back without learning. So that's why this has to be a proper link between the training and the learning until they are not made responsible for this. The responsibility of learning and development is being increasingly placed on managers and employees rather than learning and development professionals. So it should be, that's what we are talking about. It should be wisely designed by the learning and development professional. If you do not wisely design, if you're giving them some training which does not have a direct link with their performance or their job activities, probably the employees will not be much motivated. So there is a motivation that has to be developed by the learning and development practitioners. What is the role of the learning and development practitioners? So their role is to define, identify the right kind of trainings, the trainings that employees themselves they understand, or have to make a link with their performance and their future job so that the employees become motivated to take these trainings. Okay, so this is it for our today's lecture. We'll not talk about the homework yet. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. Okay, so we are done with today's lecture, inshallah. Please take note of this lecture and we'll discuss the next lecture in the class, inshallah.